Meet the Huawei Pura 80 Ultra. Does its excellent hardware compensate for its mid-tier performance and software complications? Keep watching to find out. Hey, this is Mo from the Mobile Marvel, and today we're talking all about the Huawei Pura 80 Ultra. Let's go. So, first things first, about this device, usually we start with the build and the durability, but before any of that, I need to mention something. When I started this channel, people asked me, what's a one phone that you're not really comfortable kind of, doing a review about? And my answer was actually Huawei. However, I have a completely different perspective after using this device. Just for reference, this is the gold version. This is the EMUI 15 global version. Let me just mention some couple of differences between this one and the Chinese version. So first of all, the Chinese version comes with Harmony OS Next, which is basically the first software that's not Android completely. It's a completely separate software. Okay, so the global version, what does it have? Android Auto works, which is great. It does not work with the Chinese version. It has an eSIM slot, which is a first for Huawei completely. It doesn't matter whether it's global or Chinese. It's the first time they've done that. So that's also there only on this global version. And one more thing that's on this global version that's not there is Google does work with a couple of workarounds, which we're going to talk about next. It does work. My home screens look almost identical that it looks on a normal Android device and this device. There are very few differences. Firstly, it's really a 3-app kind of setup. So 2 of those apps are available on the Huawei app gallery, which is Micro G. They're both Micro G related apps. One is the stability app and one is the main app. So you have 2 of those apps, and then you go and find an APK for the Aurora store. And then that one works too. Well, that's basically a stand-in Google Play Store. That's not the official store, but all your apps work completely fine. I've had no issues. Another thing is Widevine certification. So when it comes to like Netflix, Disney, Prime Video, HBO, a lot of them, what you're gonna see is they don't really work with Huawei correctly. So what you end up with is L3 certification. Even though this device has L1 certification, you're gonna see on your Netflix app, it says L3 certification, which will be really annoying because all you can watch is SD standard content. So again, the Huawei app gallery has pretty much both the apps that you need, G-Space and DRM info. So again, I'm gonna do a walkthrough of how to get a Huawei device set up in the future, so we all know exactly how to set one up. Now, let's touch on the software here. So I had this misconception that it's just going to be very difficult to set this up and we're going to go through all these problems and, it's not going to have any of the features that I want and all of that. A lot of that is true. There are a lot of things missing from this version of Android that you will miss. A lot of you will miss certain things. However, you know what? I've actually found this device so refreshing. It's such a light software. With a lot of Samsung devices, the Vivos and the Honors and the Xiaomis, and even sometimes the Pixels, there's so many options. I almost end up in, what's that saying? Choice paralysis, choice overload, whatever it's called. I always end up in that. And I'm like, oh, does the black tab do this? Do I set it as a camera? Do I set it as a screenshot take? I am always all over the place and I'm never happy about it. But you know what? This is the lightest version of essentially of what is kind of like Android feeling. It's the lightest version I've ever dealt with, EMUI. There's very little customization here. There's very little options, which for me has actually worked out very well. It's super smooth, it's super fast, it's super responsive. It doesn't have, one of the other things I like is you can actually launch whatever AI you want just from a swipe. So in my case, I set it as Perplexity. Other things about the software that won't work. So what's not gonna work is Google Wallet will not work. But I know a lot of people replace that with Curve. Curve is not available where I am in Hong Kong, but a lot of you will have Curve, so you can use your NFC payments through Curve. So you don't have that. You won't be able to get the Gemini working. But as I said, you can set up whatever you want. And in my case, I just set up Perplexity. It works great. I have no issues at all. Another thing about this device is there's this little tap button here. which is unique. I haven't seen this. It's very similar to that iOS 16 camera button, where you're not really pressing the button. So this is a power button that doubles as a double tap button, and you can launch anything you want with it. In my case, I'm just using it as a camera because, again, this is really all about this camera, right? So I've just set it up as a camera button, which is great. Works for me, but you can set up whatever you want. You want to launch a specific app, you can do that. The other thing is when you hold down this button, it launches Celia, which is the EMUI AI that's built into this device. It's pretty useless from my point of view. I have never found a good use of it, so I've just kind of ignored it in my case. Another thing about the software here, right? This is the best wallpaper, live wallpaper I've ever gotten out of the box in any device. It's great. It really is good. Absolutely no issues with it. Another thing a lot of people ask about, is there an app drawer on this device? So a lot of people will end up with an X6 or the Mate XT. So what it is with EMUI devices is that the ones that are folding devices, they don't have an app drawer, but the standard slab devices do have an app drawer. So there's no issues there. And also, by the way, it does have the smart controller with the IR blaster, which is always such a good feature. Living in Asia, we have air cons pretty much running most of the years. So that's just, it's a good feature. It's just a really good feature for me. Just like tap, tap, works great. By the way, if you're liking this video, please do like and subscribe. It really, really helps us out. So another thing that's there here, you have a little sidebar that comes out that you know, where you have you can have extra apps. Another thing is you can drag for copy paste, which I think is cool. By the way, Samsung doesn't even offer this, so it's quite nice and refreshing. Okay, now let's talk about the star of this entire phone, which is the cameras here. So it's not just about, I'm sure you've all heard about this 1-inch sensor that's in this device. It's not just about that 1-inch sensor, by the way. There's 3 things that make it unique. One is that 1-inch sensor, which other devices have had. Another thing is it has a variable aperture from 1.4 up to 4, which is great. And then here's a big one, the world's first dual telephoto lens at 3.4 times zoom at 50 megapixels and 9.7 times zoom at 12.5 megapixels. We've never seen that ever in a phone. And you know what? It makes this really cool retro sound, which is just awesome. I love this sound. It's that lens switch and it has this little micro animation. It's like a gear moving inside the device. Super cool. Love it. So I took all sorts of shots. And for comparison, I put it against the iPhone 16 Pro Max because a lot of people do say iPhone does take a lot of really good photos. So here's some comparison shots. So first we see these 2 standard 50 megapixel shots on the Pura. The colors look very natural and very toned. These super macros look brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Again, this one is zoomed out, one is zoomed in. You can see the detailing. It's very, very good at 10x. This was a very grim day, so you can again see how good those clouds look. The selfie, from the selfie camera, 13 megapixel, I would say is mediocre at best, nothing special. Now, on these comparison shots, you can see the detailing on the Pura 80 Ultra compared to the iPhone. Look at that zoom, look at those colors. This is almost exactly what my eyes are seeing compared to what the iPhone was not that clear. Again, the stone detailing, it's so good. However, on the night shots, I would say that yellow light, that was not natural. So I would say the iPhone did better there. Now on the zoom, this is the standard, the 3.4x and 9.7x. So you can see that how nice it does look. So this is just a 30-second selfie video. What do you think of the sound? Let me know. And this is a 13 megapixel selfie. So it does have a 2 times zoom as well. Pretty good quality, I think, in my view. Of course, it's nothing like those front cameras, but it is pretty good. Nothing to really complain about. I'm just going to push this far, push it wide. And yeah, seems pretty good. This, in a lot of ways, does feel very close to what my DJI Osmo Pocket 3 takes, actually. Is it as good as my DSLR? No, it's not. It's still not as good. But for a phone, for me, I think this is the best shot I've ever gotten out of a phone personally. So I'm quite happy about. Now, we're going to talk about the build quality and durability of this device. So one of the things is, this is well built. It is a bit on the heavier side though, right? This is 233 grams. So if you compare it to the S25 Ultra, or you compare it to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, or many other flagships, you're going to find this device is a little bit heavier. Another thing you're going to find about this device is it has the largest camera bump you've ever really seen on a phone. So when you're trying to like game or anything like that, and you need to kind of like turn this phone sideways, it is a bit jarring and uncomfortable. You're not exactly sure where to put your hands. You know, it is a bit, it's not that great in that sense. I actually found it very frustrating. However, I will say, in terms of the performance of the game, I've had no issues. But just in terms of holding it, because I play a lot of COD Mobile, so I find it that it's quite difficult. I couldn't find it. I couldn't work it on this side. I couldn't get it to work on this side. Neither side worked for me for that. That's probably just one small nitpick that I have really had about the build quality of this device. Again, it's excellent build quality. And one more thing. This is the best case I have ever received in a box with the phone. This is by far the best case. I have never seen such a good, well-built case ever on a phone. However, one thing about this camera that I have found a problem with is moving shots. So Samsung struggles with it. I think Xiaomi struggles with it. Vivo struggles with it. Oppo, not so much. Pixel and iPhone lead this category, which is moving shots they just work a lot better. Because I have an 18-month-old toddler, and the shots that I can take with a Pixel or an iPhone, or even an Oppo to an extent, those moving shots where he can't stay still, they just work a lot better, I think. So that is, if that's really important for you, I think that's something that you might have to consider on this device. Besides that, I think this is the best camera ever on a phone that I've used. So now, talking about the build quality of this device, it is really, really well built device. Absolutely no complaints. Just really solid, really good. It is a bit heavy compared to other flagships. It's 233 grams, so that is a little bit heavier. It's a 6.8-inch screen, so it is a wide, big boy phone. Very flagship feeling from that perspective. Now, in terms of the screen and brightness, it goes up to 3000 nit peak brightness. Also, it's 120 hertz, no issues there. It's really solid in that sense. It's 470 PPI, no issues. Another thing I like about this, which a lot of phones have this problem, is when you're trying to clean the lenses, because they get really grimy and disgusting. This one doesn't, because they're so like well spread out. It's A, it doesn't really get that dirty, and B, it's actually really, really easy to clean. Like just like a cloth, wipe it down, you're pretty much good to go. Now, talking about the battery life of this device, it is amazing. A 50% charge takes about 17 to 18 minutes. You get a full charge in about 40 minutes. It's 100-watt wire charging using the Huawei charger. Absolutely no issues with charging. I ended most of my days with about 35%, and I'm getting over like 8 hours of on-screen time, and I've been using the camera a lot here as well. I'm still getting really good numbers. However, the device does get really warm with about 50, this is just a test that I did, 15 minutes with the camera on, the video on, and it got to about 46 degrees, and the phone felt really, really warm. Obviously, with the case, it didn't feel that warm, but without the case, it did feel really hot in the hands. What about its performance? So, this is really where Huawei has a big negative. They're using a 7nm processor. Most of the devices you see today's flagship devices, they're using a 3nm processor. Or there's even talks of a 2nm processor coming down the line, but this is using a 7nm processor, which is a Kirin 9020. So it is a lot. I would say it's really not up there. And if you put this in benchmarks, you are not going to, I have not bothered putting this on benchmarks because I know what I'm going to get. However, in day-to-day use, because of how light the software feels, I would say you're getting pretty good, smooth performance, no issues. Huawei is always known for good processing with cameras, so you don't really have an issue there either. Even in terms of gaming, I play a lot of COD Mobile, and I'm getting pretty good performance there. I'm having no issues either. There is no dedicated game mode or anything like that, but you're getting pretty good performance across the board there. Who is this device for? Well, if you want a big phone, slab phone that feels flagship level, to check. You know what? Let's not do that. Let's just say what it is. If you want pretty much the best camera on a slab phone or on any smartphone, then this really is something you need to consider. However, the caveats for this device are, it's a Huawei device, so there will be limitation. Again, Google Wallet will not work. Google Wear OS watches like this one will not work. In my case, it doesn't matter. I have plenty of other devices, but a lot of you, if this is your main device and only device, well, then this will not work. Android Auto, wired does work. But again, that's only with the global version. I need to point that out. Other things is 5G does not work on this device either, but you do have eSIM support now for the first time ever. So there are compromises. There's going to be a lot of compromises. And Google, again, does not run natively. So there's a workaround. There's, you got to set that up first. If you want to watch HD content, you have to set that up. If you want your Google contacts to come through, you have to set that up. If you need your business work or Google Workspace email to come through, you need to set that up. So there is a few workarounds here. However, if camera is something that really matters to you and good shots and excellent shots, then this is something that you can really, really consider. And another thing I will point out here is maybe this is just me, because maybe it's nothing to do with the Huawei. It's just that maybe I've been using foldable devices like this for way too long now that I even forgot how nice a flagship device can feel in hand. So maybe it's just that, but I just feel pretty good with this device. I just feel it's super smooth. It's very light. So if you've ever used a Huawei device before or are planning to pick this one up or any other Huawei device, please do comment down below. Also, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out with the algo. And also, this device that I mentioned here, or any other device from any manufacturer that you cannot pick up in your local store, then please do check out themobilemarvel.com. We do have you covered. We ship globally, and we do have unbeatable prices on these devices. We have Vivos, we have Honors, we have Oppos, we have Xiaomis, we have Huawei's as well, not just this, all of them. And also, what we're doing is, if you have watched this to the end, we're actually giving 3% off with the code I came from YT. So it's basically I came from YouTube, but it's I came from YT, all caps. And you get a 3% discount on our store. This is Mo checking out. Until the next time, see you later.